This edition of Project Escalator, I put a 14,000 RPM crate motor in my Power Wheels and dude jumps in my front yard. Roll the clip! Okay, we're back again. And the Ranger body is over there on that other pile of junk. The Ranger has had some changes, apart from now having a blue seat. I've installed a newer engine. I've gone to a manual engine. I've gone with a GPX 125. Yeah, I fully splashed out. And the old 6 horsepower thing was not really coping in a too grand of a fashion with the weight. This thing does weigh a fair bit. So GPX 125 race motor, meant to make about 12 horsepower, revs to 14,000 RPM. So it's up there, revs higher than Starlet even. So it's an oil cooled engine. So I've just made some adapters for the oil cooler lines, and I'm going to use one of these, which is a Toyota Corolla oil cooler. These come standard on the small ports, and I'm just going to sort of mount it up front like this. I'm just about to make the brackets for it just now, so I'm just going to get rid of these aluminium fuel tank brackets and integrate the bracket for the radiator into that. As far as carburetors go for this, I'm running a 24mm OKO flat slide, and I've had this thing fired up, and let me tell you, the thing just absolutely freaking sings, man. It's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely loving it. Also made some other changes to the front suspension. So essentially, you would have noticed from older videos of this, it's a bit like darty, like it sort of like tram lines and tracks around the place, which sort of doesn't instill confidence. So what I've actually done is I've got one of these, which is a steering dampener for a motorbike. Hopefully I don't drop it too many times. So what this does is it goes in between your steering, and see if I can sort of demonstrate it. This is not the actual way it's going to be laid out. I think it's going to be laid out kind of like this. I think so. And this rod slides in between it. So the rod is connected to a fixed point, and the hydraulic assembly is fixed to another point. And it's got like a little adjustable duty on here, so you can raise or lower the hydraulic resistance to this rod moving in and out. Hopefully that will dampen the steering to make it a bit less sketchy. That's what I'm really sort of hoping for, because it was not too great when it would hit a pothole and stuff like that. But given the work that I do professionally, I do a lot of suspension stuff, and one thing I did notice was that these setups on these China bikes, after talking to quite a few people, they are all pretty darty, like they sort of tram line and stuff like that. And what I found out from looking at a lot of pictures is that they all have caster that sort of leans to the forward. I believe that's negative caster. So what I've actually done is swapped this arm with this arm, so the two top arms, because they are offset. You see how the offset to the center here, usually this will be offset to the front, so that ball joint would be sort of here, and you can see how it would have caster like the completely opposite direction. So what happens with caster, your car will be set up like this with, I believe it's positive caster, so that it will free steer and like self-center and all those sort of nice things that cars do. But for some reason, I don't know what's happened. Somewhere in the vast nothingness of time, someone made a quad one way, and then everyone sort of makes it the same way forever, and they all have the same problems. So hopefully that's sort of or helping to resolve the issue. The other byproduct of it is, if I get into the area of it, my steering linkages are now almost dead straight with the steering assembly itself. Whereas before, this linkage here that I'm pointing to was over here. So there was a heck of an angle. And what happens if you've watched any of the tuber videos for that thing, I explained like quite a bit of suspension dynamics from my recent work. And the less of an arc that your steering assembly is moving, or your suspension components, the more stable the results are when it moves in its sort of travel area. So this is all theoretical. I'm hoping that it's going to work, and it's going to work a bit better, because I would love for this thing to be a bit more stable, especially when it's got a U-Butte sort of gangbusters engine in it now. I've started working on the gear shifter. So I can't use a traditional gear shifter because of my layout, I have like the floorboards that go in there. So what I've done is sort of, and it's only a work in progress, mind you. So I've cut the shifter apart and welded the original shifter onto the back so that you hit it with the back of your foot. So when your foot is sort of on it, you can tap it to sort of change down, and to change forward, you would just like sort of knock this one here. So I just sort of made it curve around the engine so that it gives me the maximum foot space in there. But this is a prototype. I'm pretty sure I'm going to change it because it's not, sort of like completely comfortable. But it didn't take much to wire this up. I do have a whole wiring guide, and I ended up making my own wiring diagram for the engine because the ones that were available were crap. So I just made my own. So if you want to know more about that, there is a separate video like on the channel if you want to go hunting for that. Basically, it's 4 wires now that make it run. Just the ignition sources, the position, and the coil activation, and that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 6, because you need a ground. So you've got position, plus and minus, and ignition, feed, and you've got your coil activation and ground. 6 wires, man, and kick the thing, and yeah, boom. It sounds absolutely nuts, but doesn't have an exhaust, so I don't really run it too much because not everyone loves 14,000 RPM of GPX. So I've also added this trick little guy as a kill switch, bit of a piss take on an emergency stop. So just hit it and obviously stalls the motor. So yeah, now I'm just going to finish that bracket and see how this pans out. Got to make new floor pans, and I've got to redo the brake system because now where the filter comes through, I couldn't run the filter straight off of the carburetor because the carburetor is really big. So I had to run the filter. I've got like a little intake system now. I'm going to have to redo my brake assembly. It did work. It worked okay. I can't say that it worked stupendously well. It needs a few little changes made to it, I think, and should be good. But I'll try get out of it the quickest way. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on with those bits. Here we are. It looks like I've got stuff everywhere, but I'm just going through finishing the alignment on the front end of this thing because I just want to try see how my changes like affected the geometry and stuff. And I mean, so I was working on this other small one today, and I managed to sort of flip some steering over, and I seem to also almost have completely eliminated it in the Ranger frame as well. So basically, I've got this lever here to simulate making it easier for my weight and the compression, and I've got a bit of a system set up here where I've got equal length from here and here, and that tracking across, so I can sort of draw a line to align the front end. Now, I've got it set up now, and there's only 5mm of toe in. And before, I was between the two, I was having 33mm of toe out under full compression, which was pretty hectic. So it was like really hard to align it because there's changes like happening all the time. So this is what happens now. So to me, that's pretty freaking magical, and I'm more than happy with that. So I've got 5mm of toe under full compression. Man, I deal with cars daily that I do alignments on at work, and they're not even that good or stable. So let's pull this guy out, stitch that. So I've got the caster changes all in effect as well. So there is definitely an arse load more camber, and I've put just like 1 1/4 degrees of camber in it, but the steering is really light now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how it's going to go. The next step is to engineer this steering dampener into like the stalker assembly. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure if I explained it before, but I'm going to weld a standoff onto here and then make a plate that fits on there, because I don't want to have to pull all that apart because there's like a big rubber bush, not plastic bush, sorry. And don't want to have to pull all that apart again. It's easy enough to make a bracket. Just use some light 3mm plate and drill a few holes and stuff. So here we go. So what I did with the steering dampener, I just made a standoff, and I put a nutser in there as a standoff, so it doesn't interfere with the ball joint. And down here, I just made a bracket for that that goes across the bottom bolts, so I can remove it if I don't like it. And so you can see now how it actually works. The hydraulic cylinder is attached to the steering shaft and resists the turning. So this is the little dampening adjustment I was talking about before. At the moment I've got it on 7 clicks out of 32, and seems to work pretty good. Actually makes a difference. So I've got my kickstand done. I just got original kickstand off another pit bike and gave it a bit of a Z so that it clears this support here, which, I mean, I put that in. Normally it wouldn't hit it. And all new side plates and new brake mechanism, so it's more like a pedal than was before, and I've got a lot more mechanical advantage to the piston itself, so the brakes actually work really well. The old system sort of worked, but you were kind of pushing on the piston itself and not much mechanical advantage. So this is much better, and it's just made out of some flat bar really. All new side plates, and I have a belly pan on it as well. On the other side, you can see that I've fully made the exhaust. Now I got one of those standard sort of like pit bike exhausts, and then just use that to cut it up and make my exhaust out of to run on the left hand side, because normally they would run on the other side, the right hand side. So I just chopped it pretty much at the flange, and then I have these nice little what would you call these, flexible joints. These are actually part of an EGR pipe off a Nissan Navara. So there's a segment there and a segment there, and this is pit bike exhaust here. Through to here I made an expansion joint which turned out, well, terribly, and then a bit more pit bike and then more EGR pipe. And this time around I put a Ninja 300 muffler on it. It dampens the sound really well, and yeah, works really awesome. So all new side plates for here, and I've got a little heat shield here, and here's what they look like. So the shifter, I went and modified a standard shifter. I know I said previously that I couldn't use a standard shifter because of the orientation of the motor and stuff, And yeah, it's pretty true. I am also looking at changing it again. I'd like to try a system where you shift from up here, because yeah, having your foot down here doesn't really give you enough leverage to sort of push your bum into the crook of the seat. So I'd like to make the shifter up here somewhere, but I do have another linkage that I pulled off of a mobility scooter. That should work. So I'm just going to have to engineer that. But yeah, that's secondary problems, because this thing actually works pretty good, and whenever anyone jumps on it, they sort of understand how to use it, because it's more like a pit bike control. I've also finished off my radiator mounting and made a bash grill that fits it. I ended up using a bashed one off another quad. So this originally sat flat, which was pretty silly, and I didn't like the style, so sort of cut the tangs off of here and cut these ones off here, and sort of eyeballed it into place and then zapped it with the hot glue gun, and here we are. So it actually looks pretty cool. With the body on, the nose comes to here now, and I built in an extra support for the nose, because the nose was sort of getting cut up by the tires when it was sort of flapping around, because I mean, it's only plastic. So yeah, let's get the body on and see if we can't go have an adventure. Okay, let's see if this magic helmet was worth the beans I traded for it. Ready? Oh yeah,